You died on a Friday, sometime during the night. In the movie version of my life, I would have woken up at the exact moment of impact, startled by an eerie premonition. But that's not what happened. I slept right through. You died on a Friday. It was on the front page of the paper Saturday morning. The article stretched over the fold. The picture of twisted wreckage caught my eye. I guess I'm like that. The sort of person who wants to rubberneck even at a still image, even after the fact. It embarrassed me to be like that. I slid the paper closer when my mom was in the kitchen. I wasn't even going to open it up all the way. But then I saw your name. The article contained all the scurrilous details, the sorts of information I would lap up when it's a story about strangers. You'd been out past curfew with a reputed bad boy. Driving too fast, not caring about the rules, ignoring things like speed limits and stop signs, fighting the establishment right up until the order of the universe inverted, against the grill of a tractor trailer. 2 teens dead, 2 injured. Tessa Martin and Sean Ryan. Him I didn't know. He went to a different school, like the injured kids in the back seat, who weren't named in the article. You died on a Friday, late in the evening, long after the football game, hours after the stadium had cleared, hours after I caught my last glimpse of you across the bleachers, me in the marching band section, you entwined with the cool kids. It was the briefest of glances, really. I'm sure you didn't notice me at first. You stood out from the crowd, whereas I was dressed like all the other band kids, clutching my clarinet. You smiled, but only sort of. At first I wasn't even sure you were smiling at me. Then you winked, and I knew. This time, like every time, I wondered if I was safe, if you were going to open your mouth and ruin everything. You only smiled, and it wasn't cold or anything. I could trust you. I could always trust you. That wasn't the issue. The issue was, I wanted to get closer. I wanted to know how you had seen what you saw in me, how you had seen through every veneer of my heart and called me out from hiding. But I couldn't. You died on a Friday, and my secret died with you. I didn't go to your funeral to remind myself we didn't know each other at all. We had gym class, first period, 1 hour per weekday for 6 months. That was our whole relationship. It shouldn't have mattered much, should it? We were 2 of the 4 least athletic girls in class. Or really, I should say, the least interested. We did the bare minimum, and that was fine with us. Second semester of my sophomore year, your junior. It was sophomore gym. You were retaking the course, having been too lackadaisical about it the first time around. You played it fast and loose with the dress code. What are we, sheep? Might have been the first thing I ever heard you say. Huh? Bah! You flapped your ears with your hands and bleated. You dragged out the A's until you snorted, and your eyes grew big beneath your bangs. I laughed. They want us to look exactly alike. Gray sweat shorts are the look of the season, I said. Get on board. You pulled a tube of lipstick out of your waistband. The questionably fashionable shorts had no pockets, of course. There have been lawsuits, you said. For a second you held the lipstick like a cigarette, and I wondered if you wished you were smoking. Lawsuits? Dress code lawsuits. The American Civil Liberties Union. Imposing a uniform suppresses our First Amendment rights to free speech. The lipstick smeared on perfectly. So deep red it was more like maroon. I tugged at the collar of my baggy blue Simpson high t-shirt. I'd rather be wearing a lawsuit. You stared at me, unsmiling. You're funny. I didn't go to your funeral. I mean, funerals are about the living and stuff, and I didn't know your family or your friends. I wouldn't know how to stand around and spout cliches or worse to say something meaningful or memorable at all. Hi, Mrs. Martin. I'm Cassie Ellison. You don't know me, but your daughter shook my life to its foundation. Would that be comforting? Tessa was a person who could wreak havoc with a sentence. 16 years doesn't seem like long, but how many lives could a person with that kind of power have ruined in her time? By the way, I'm sorry for your loss. I didn't go to your funeral, but sometimes I wish I'd been bold enough. I wonder what you looked like, or if the coffin was even open. You always wore a lot of makeup, so maybe if they did a good job, maybe you even still looked like yourself. But I try not to dwell on morbid thoughts. I was curious, of course, but I didn't want to be one of those people who pile on to a tragedy. Even at school, I couldn't stand how people who hardly knew you were sobbing and clutching each other, as though a deep part of them had been ripped free. I couldn't bear to appear the way they did, like a parasite feeding on sorrow. In some cultures I've read, there are professional mourners, women, usually women, I think, whose role it is to wail deeply and rend their garments, to lend voice to the sadness that surrounds such a loss. This, this was something else. This was grief rendered chic. To have been close to the girl who died. What was her name again? To be close to her, to be one of the dear friends feeling the pain most deeply, that was a coveted position. Girls jockeyed for it, while her true best friend, and fellow quiet goth, rested in silence at the lunch table reserved for freaks and outcasts, unceremoniously, uncelebrated. Tessa's best friend sat alone. It was hard, but not too hard, to approach her. Maya? Her eyes were rimmed with tears, mascara smudged, not so much a smoky eye as the soggy dregs of a campfire pit after the flames have been doused. Yeah, I'm really sorry about Tessa. Maya didn't know me from Adam. Her lashes fluttered wetly. All she had on her tray was a sad piece of pepperoni pizza and a can of grapefruit seltzer. Well, thanks. I don't know what the point of it was. She clearly didn't know me or care for anonymous expressions of sadness. I don't know why it felt important to touch your personal sphere, even if it had to be in the stupidest of ways. She was always really nice to me, I said. We only had one class together, but, well, thanks, Maya said again. We didn't really know each other. We came from different worlds. I was the quiet girl who never made waves. You were the actual ocean. You were goth before everyone knew what to call it, or at least before I did. I might have been called preppy if I was 2 shades cooler. Entirely different worlds. There were a lot of things I could have asked you, I guess, but I never thought of it at the time. We'd sit in line and you'd take demerits for failing to appear in the correct attire for gym class. Miss Corning stood above us, disdainfully marking it all down. Hair not pulled back, she noted. I don't want a crease, you said, tossing your hair like a mane. I understood what that saying meant for the first time with you. Your dark hair flew back, revealing the barely checked wildness underneath your skin, a reined creature yearning to run free. I smoothed a hand over my twin French braids. I can relate. My hair would hold absolutely any shape it dried in. Your hair's cute like that, you said. But how come you never wear it down? It doesn't go down, I said. I could have a foot-high afro if I wanted. That would be cool, you said. I tugged the end of my braid, thinking of all the middle school boys who had teased my frizzy attempt at a ponytail. Nah, there's nothing wrong with being yourself, you said, lipstick in hand, like a cigarette. We didn't really know each other. I never found out whether you smoked or not, for instance. I don't know if you had siblings, or if Sean was your boyfriend, or if you secretly liked one of the guys in the back seat. Maybe you didn't like boys. I don't know. I'll never know. We didn't really know each other at all. The day it all came crashing down, on me, that is, not the accident. The day it all came crashing down, you were wearing the requisite ponytail, but not the right color shorts. You weren't wearing shorts at all, in fact. It was a pair of sweats, and they said hot stuff across the butt. Didn't feel like shaving? I said. You smiled. I'm not trying to impress anyone. No boys you like in this class? I said. You shook your head. Me either. Oh, you sounded surprised. I thought you were a lesbian. Your words sizzled straight through me. They found a lightning rod in me that had never been struck, that I never knew existed. What? No. Really? You raised your eyebrows. I've seen the way you look at Angela. My eyes cut over to Angela, 2 rows away. My friend and default gym class partner when we had to pair up on things. When we needed groups of 4, it was Angela, me, Tessa, and her default partner, Lainey. I don't know what you mean, I said. How do I look at Angela? I could imagine the shape of her butt right then, even though she was sitting. It wasn't labeled hot stuff or anything, but when you mentioned looking at her, that's what I pictured. I didn't think it meant anything. It didn't mean anything. Sweetie, you said, you might be a lesbian. The words rolled out of you so matter of fact. I'd never heard anyone refer to gayness in such a casual way. It wasn't a slur or a takedown. It was a window opening to a whole other world I'd never imagined. A window I wanted to lean through and take in every detail of the landscape for as far as the eye could see. Do people look at me and think that? My stomach knotted right up. You shrugged. Up and down the rows, the other kids were talking or goofing around or staring off into space. No one was listening to us. We weren't even speaking anymore, but your words echoed off the bleachers, and the mishmash of lines on the floor, and the gray and blue cotton uniforms everyone was wearing. I think about how it felt. I think about whether you saw it coming. A blur of headlights, the squeal of brakes, an echo of something, anything that promised release. I think about whether it was painful. I think about your nails clicking against the dashboard. I imagine you were laughing, but maybe you were late. Maybe that's why Sean ran the stop sign. You were trying to get home. I don't know where you lived, though. I don't know what you did with your time. I don't know whether to be jealous of everything you had going that night, right up to the tractor-trailer impact. Out late, speeding, maybe with the wind in your luscious black hair. I didn't mean to say luscious. Your hair was simply black, jet black, ebony, the opposite of ice. Whipping in the wind, in the dark, it would look like flames, already burned out but not knowing when to quit. You died on a Friday. I didn't go to your funeral. We didn't know each other at all. And still, I think about you. I think about whether you saw it coming and whether it was painful. You died on a Friday, months ago, and still I think about you, you. I think about your eyes, your nails, your lips. Your red, red lips were silenced, and a part of me was entirely relieved.